Welcome back. This week I want to talk about money roles and dynamics within relationships, the issues that they cause, and then I want to tell you where you really want to be. So first up, and this one is very common, where you've got one person that's in charge of all of the finances for the whole family. They take care of all the bills, they make sure that the taxes are done, they do all the stuff with the money. Now, this usually happens because the other party doesn't want to deal with it, or the one is very analytical and into the numbers, and the other one just takes a step back and says, I don't care, you deal with it. Which is great until it's not. Because the issue is, if everything is going well, then everything is going well. They don't get any credit for it. The other person in the relationship can go and spend and do whatever they want as long as everything's going well. When it's not, everyone knows who to point the finger at. And it's that person that's dealing with the money and dealing with the finances for the family, right? And somehow it's all their fault. And they're always the one that has to shoulder the burden of going and telling other people if they're spending outside of the spending plan, they're spending way too much money, they're doing things that aren't reasonable, et cetera, et cetera. And then it just turns into a fight where they're sort of the gatekeeper to the information and the money, and nobody wants to talk to them about it. So you can't have one person who's in charge of everything and the other person who's just along for the ride and then say that you're equal partners in this and you both have a say, right? And you want everyone to have a role. So that's where this one really starts to fall short. Another one is both people do all of their stuff separately. No one touches the other person's money. They have their own bills, their own accounts. The only thing that if they're married, they come together to do taxes and that's it. So the issue here is that, it works great while both parties are earning their own income and making their own payments and doing all of that stuff. But if one substantially out earns the other, then you end up with this issue of, well, you've got all this money and I'm the one who's paying for dinner when we go out to eat, but you've got all the money. And you get this back and forth of a comparison and not one unified force to pay for all of the expenses. And so obviously that creates conflict along the way. It also can create some sort of distrust between them if you don't like or trust what they're spending their money on. Because you don't have any insight into it, you can get a lot of financial infidelity, you can get a lot of just uneasiness around it, and then it sort of creates this natural friction. And you don't need that. Money's already stressful enough. You don't need the extra friction to go along with it. Now, the last one that is basically just chaos, if I was ever to explain it, is where you have joined finances, but nobody's good with numbers and nobody really has a sense of where the money is going. There's not an alignment with where we think the money should be going, which then creates arguments because, well, I don't think you should have bought that. And you went and did it. And our money is joined, and so I feel like you took half of my money to go buy this thing. And that becomes the issue there where yes, you've joined them and everybody's sort of on the same page as far as like we're both responsible for it. But if there's not an alignment into what you should be spending on or how you should be spending the money, then it's, well, we're both aligned that we're responsible for the money, which makes me feel responsible for all of your purchases and I don't agree with your purchases. And so now we fight. So where you really want to get is a good alignment between we're both responsible, we both understand that we contribute to the situation, to the financial situation, to the outcome at the end of the month of whether or not we have money and we can pay our bills. You both understand that you play a role. And you want to sit down, and this is where I work with people on values-based spending, and talk about what is important to you, where you think your money should be going, and then align all of that so that when they go to buy something or go on a shopping spree and you disagree with it, you go, look, we set aside money that is for you to do whatever you want to do with it, and I don't care. And that allows them to live their life and have their fun, and you don't feel like they're taking your money and running off to go on a shopping spree that you disagree with. This is really how you get to the end goal, and you stop a lot of these arguments where the roles aren't equal and there's just sort of chaos happening, right? Like we can't have that. So the end goal for this, if you're thinking, how do I lower the stress and get our money roles aligned, it is to sit down and say, look, we both need to accept responsibility as grown adults here, that we both contribute to this situation. So how do we best deal with that, right? How do we align our values? How do we best spend our money in a way that we can agree on? And very oftentimes it comes down to, an allowance is probably a bad word because you think of that when you're a kid, but if it's just your free spending, an amount of money that you're allowed to go spend on whatever you want every month, then that is a great way to let people live the life they want to live and spend on things that you disagree with without causing an argument. And that is how you handle money roles in a relationship.